Ancient objects. Experts warned people not to study. Some of the most important objects ever discovered were actively discouraged from being studied. These aren't fringe stories from conspiracy forums. They're documented cases where mainstream academics pushed back, warned colleagues, or quietly buried findings. What you're about to see is real, verified, and genuinely unsettling. Let's get into it. One, the Antikythera Mechanism, the computer that shouldn't exist. In 1900, a Greek sponge diver surfaced shaking and babbling about dead naked people on the ocean floor. He wasn't losing his mind. What he'd found was a shipwreck full of ancient Greek treasure, and buried in that wreck was a corroded lump of bronze that nobody understood for the next 70 years. When scientists finally cracked it open using X-ray tomography, they discovered something that rewrote history: a fully functioning astronomical calculator with over 30 interlocking gears, capable of predicting solar eclipses, planetary movements, and Olympic Games cycles, built around 100 BCE. The problem? Nothing that complex shouldn't have existed again for another 1,400 years. Clockwork mechanisms of this sophistication didn't reappear in Europe until the 14th century. Researchers literally could not agree on what they were looking at. One camp said it was a display model. Another said it functioned perfectly. The debate got so heated that an 8-ton X-ray machine, the Blade Runner, had to be shipped to the Athens Museum just to study it because the mechanism itself was too fragile to move. The real warning wasn't about the object's condition. It was about what accepting its existence meant, that ancient Greek technology was so advanced and so thoroughly lost that an entire chapter of human history simply vanished. 2. The Voynich Manuscript, the book that broke the world's best codebreakers. During World War II, the same men and women who cracked Nazi Enigma codes and Japan's Purple Cipher decided to take a crack at a 600-year-old illustrated book written in a language nobody had ever seen. They failed completely. The NSA failed. Alan Turing reportedly took a look and moved on. The FBI tried. Modern AI models trained on thousands of languages have run analysis. Every single attempt has come back empty, or worse, returned answers so contradictory that they make the problem harder, not easier. The manuscript, carbon dated to the early 15th century, is filled with drawings of plants that don't exist, astrological diagrams, bathing women, and 240 pages of flowing text in an unknown script. Here's where it gets actually alarming. Physicists who have studied it warn that it's pure poison for a scholarly career. That's a real quote. Physicist Andreas Schinner said that in an academic context, the manuscript is so easy to make career-ending mistakes about that experts genuinely advise junior researchers to stay away. A 2024 study in the journal Social History of Medicine now suggests it may be a coded medieval gynecology text about women's reproductive health, which, in the Middle Ages, was literally dangerous knowledge to possess, so it may have been designed to be unreadable as a matter of survival. 3. The Piri Reis map, a 1513 map that shows a continent nobody had found yet. In 1929, a German theologian cataloging dusty documents in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace came across a fragment of map drawn on gazelle skin. It showed Europe, Africa, South America, all completely reasonable for 1513. Then he noticed the bottom of the map. It showed a southern landmass, Antarctica, which wasn't officially discovered until 1773. That's 260 years before it should have been possible to know it existed. But the real jaw-dropper wasn't that it showed Antarctica. It was that it showed the continent without its ice cap, the way it would have looked over 6,000 years ago, before glaciation. The map was drawn by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis, who noted in his own annotations that he compiled it from older source maps, including one made by Christopher Columbus, which no longer survives. What older sources was he working from? That's the question nobody wants to answer. Historians who've studied it say it also uses a cartographic projection technique, the Mercator projection, that European mapmakers didn't develop until 1569. Captain Lorenzo Burrows of the U.S. Air Force Cartography Department formerly wrote in 1961 that the Antarctic coastline on the map was accurate to within 1 degree of latitude. Most mainstream scholars argue it may simply be Patagonia stretched and misplaced, but they've never fully closed the case, and the coordinates keep not cooperating with that explanation. 4. The Baigong pipes, radioactive iron tubes, from 150,000 years ago. In 1996, a Chinese writer named Bai Yu was exploring a remote cave in Qinghai province, roughly 40 kilometers from the nearest town in one of the most inhospitable deserts in the world, when he noticed something strange sticking out of the cave walls. Metallic pipes. Some were thinner than a toothpick. Some were fist-sized. They ran from the cave down toward a salt lake, and they were embedded in the rock as though they had always been there. When samples were sent for analysis, the Beijing Institute of Geology dated them using thermoluminescence to approximately 150,000 years ago. That's roughly 148,000 years before the earliest known metallurgy. The chemical analysis found the pipes were 92% iron oxide, silicon dioxide, and calcium oxide, consistent with extreme age. The remaining 8% of the material was unidentified. Then, in 2007, geologist Zheng Jiandong from the China Earthquake Administration published findings that several of the pipes were highly radioactive. That detail caused the study to go very quiet, very fast. The most grounded scientific explanation is that the pipes are fossilized tree roots, organic material that underwent diagenesis under the right temperature and chemical conditions, slowly replaced by iron minerals over millennia. That would explain the pipes. It would not explain why they're radioactive. The site now has tourist signs pointing to it. The Chinese government erected a monument to alien structures. Scientists haven't returned for a formal excavation. Make of that what you will. 5. The Saqqara bird, ancient Egypt's aerodynamic secret. In 1898, archaeologists excavating a tomb near Egypt's oldest pyramid pulled out a small wooden object and filed it away in the Cairo Museum as a carved bird. It sat there, labeled and largely ignored, for 71 years. Then, in 1969, an anatomy professor named Dr. Khalil Messiah picked it up and noticed something that changed the entire conversation. This bird had no feet. Every bird carving in ancient Egypt had feet. Every single one. It was an artistic convention, but not this one. Instead of feet, it had a vertical tail fin. And instead of bird wings, it had flat, straight wings with a curved upper surface, the exact shape of a modern aircraft wing, engineered to generate lift. Messiha published a paper arguing it was a scale model of a glider. The Egyptian Ministry of Culture convened a committee. That committee agreed the object had aerodynamic value. Then, decades later, the History Channel brought in aerodynamics expert Simon Sanderson, who built a replica and tested it in a wind tunnel at one of the UK's leading aeronautical research institutes. Result: the Saqqara bird could produce 4 times its own weight in lift. A full flight simulation at the University of Liverpool, with a theorized tail fin reattached, confirmed it could fly. Mainstream archaeologists say it's a coincidence, a ritual bird carving that happens to be aerodynamically functional. But the hieroglyphs on the exhibit case in room 22 of the Cairo Museum read, "I want to fly," and 3 papyrus fragments found alongside it say the same thing. 6. The Baghdad battery, a working electrical cell from 250 BCE. In 1936, during an excavation near Baghdad, archaeologists found a series of small clay jars that initially looked completely unremarkable. When one was opened, it contained a copper cylinder surrounding an iron rod. The 2 metals separated and sealed with bitumen. The archaeologist who cataloged it, Wilhelm Koenig, had a thought. What if you fill that jar with an acid, vinegar, grape juice, anything with electrolytes, and wire the iron and copper together? What happens? The answer is that you get electricity, specifically between 0.5 and 1.5 volts of direct current. The Mythbusters ran the experiment in 2005 using lemon juice as the electrolyte and connected several jars in series. They produced 4 volts, enough for minor electroplating. That's the thing nobody can fully explain away. The shape, the materials, the sealing, they are functionally identical to a galvanic cell. But mainstream archaeologists largely reject the battery theory. And here's their strongest argument. No electroplated objects from ancient Mesopotamia have ever been found. If the Parthians or Sasanians were electroplating gold onto silver, that gold would survive. It hasn't turned up. The Smithsonian's working position is that the jars were likely scroll containers used in religious contexts. Similar jars without the copper-iron pairing have been found at nearby sites. The scholarly consensus: mundane storage. The elephant in the room: mundane storage jars don't generate a voltage when you pour fruit juice in them. The debate never fully closed because neither side can produce definitive proof. 7. The Roman dodecahedron, an object with no name, no purpose, no record. Here's one that gets overlooked because it isn't flashy enough, but it might be the most genuinely bizarre item on this list. Over 130 of these objects have been found across the former Roman Empire. They're hollow, bronze, 12-sided, with a circle cut into each face and a small sphere at each corner. Some are the size of a golf ball, some are the size of a grapefruit. The Romans were meticulous record keepers. They wrote about everything: their tools, their rituals, their weapons, their food. They depicted everything in mosaics and frescoes. The dodecahedrons appear in none of it. Not one written reference, not one painting, not one historical description. In nearly 300 years of the objects being studied since the first was found in 1739, nobody has identified what they were called. The theories have ranged from military rangefinders to sundial calendars to coin validators to knitting aids to ritual amulets. Every single one has a fatal flaw. They're all different sizes, which rules out measurement. None show wear, which rules out regular tool use. They've never been found in Rome itself, only in the northern provinces. The most recent finding, unearthed by amateur archaeologists in Norton Disney, England in 2023, was sitting next to a Roman cavalry figurine with religious significance. The best current explanation from the people who've spent the most time with these things: some kind of cosmic ritual object, possibly connected to Druidic traditions absorbed into Roman religion in Gaul and Britain. The Romans eventually outlawed magic after converting to Christianity, which might explain why they stopped making these and why they stopped writing about them.